Welcome readers and readers welcome. I'm Stella with BooksAreFriends. Today I have about 10 books to show off from our September book haul, so let's not waste any time, let's get right to it. First up I have Armada by Ernest Cline. It's a science fiction, otherworldly, fast-paced novel. The main character, Zach, wants nothing more than to escape his reality, preferably into the science fiction he loves so much. And then one day, he gets his wish. Ernest Cline also wrote Ready Player One. I haven't read Ready Player One yet. I did buy that for a friend for his birthday. Ready Player One got so much hype and so many good reviews, and people on BookTube and just around the web have just been praising that book like crazy, and I am going to have to read it. Ernest Cline, I think it's going to be another one of those authors for me that once I read one of his books, I just go and pick up the other one just because I love the first one so much. But I believe Armada is going to be my first read by him. Next up we have Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is about a young heroine on the verge of womanhood who misreads all her social signs, and she ends up messing up her and her friends' love lives as she just tries to figure out her way through her world. And I love Jane Austen. My favorite book by her is Pride and Prejudice. If you haven't read anything by Jane Austen but have kind of wanted to, I suggest you start with Persuasion. Persuasion is a short, almost 200-page book, and it just spoke to me in so many ways. So I do love Jane Austen. She's amazing. She's my favorite writer of all time. And I haven't read all of her books yet, but I just got a few more and I can't wait to read through them all. Thirdly, we have Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. This is a fairy tale retelling of a princess becoming a goose in order to bide her time and to regain her throne from the people who were supposed to protect her, but ended up betraying her. And I did read this back when I was in junior high, and I remember absolutely loving it, and I remember just the feelings I got from this story, which I think I did read it at a perfect time for like the story in my age group. But I don't remember a lot about the story itself. So I would love to give this a reread if it holds the same truths and lovingness it did for me when I was younger. Next we have Before I Die by Candy Chang. This is about a woman who started this movement in her neighborhood, and she repainted an old house in the neighborhood and put on the house these lines. It just says, "Before I die, I want to," and she left them blank. And then she had people from all over the neighborhood coming and writing in what they wanted to do before they die or what goals they wanted to accomplish, and it was just this really inspiring thing that got this community together. Since then, boards like this have gone up all over the world. There's some in Japan and India and London and many around the US. It's just a good inspirational book that I found. There are so many things in my life that I have yet to figure out, and there are times when I'm working on the novel I'm writing, or just other little goals in my life where I just don't feel like quite doing it, and there are days of time where I just get discouraged, and so I pick up this book and give it a flip through, and it just inspires me to continue. For our fifth book we have Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. This one is about a girl named Fanny. She moves in with a family at a young age, and once she's grown, which in this era of Jane Austen is still a mid-teenager, like 15, 16 year old girl. So once she's grown, she must fight for love when a newcomer threatens to take that love away from her. So it's just all about growing up and figuring out what you want and who you are. And that is, again, a lot of Jane Austen's books, and it has so many social implications and just everything you would ever need to learn. Again, I love Jane Austen. She is my favorite author. Shadow and Bone, which is the first book of the Grisha trilogy, and this is by Leigh Bardugo. So while a soldier for her country, Alina discovers dormant powers, and she is brought into a new social circle, which these group of people who have sort of the same abilities as she, or abilities at all. I haven't read the series yet, so I'm not really sure, but they're called the Grisha, and they're just this like army of powerful people. And within this new social circle with these Grishas, she gains a new purpose for her life while also fighting the same war she was already in, just kind of in a new side of it, in a new perspective. And of course, she enters this new social circle, she has to leave just people she knew and her friends and everyone else behind, and it's just a struggle for her. And like I said, I've heard good things and bad things about this series, and I can't wait to read it because it just seems like it's gonna be intense. And following that, we have Ruin and Rising by Lee Bardugo. This is the third book in the Grizzly trilogy, and I don't know anything about this book. I have not read the inside synopsis of it, just because I don't want to spoil myself for anything that may have happened in the previous two books. Next, I have Fragments by Dan Wells. This is book 2 in the partial sequence. I have book 3. I don't have book 1, and I have not read any of the series. So again, I have not looked to see what this book is about, just because I don't want to spoil myself for the series. Dan Wells is an author I've heard a lot about. I follow one of his podcasts. He has a seat on the writing podcast called Writing Excuses, and I do listen to him and a few other authors on that podcast, and I've heard just from that alone a lot about his books, but I have not picked up anything by him. This series will be my first read through of his art, and I've heard from him himself, from his cast members on his podcast, and just from the book world, that Dan Wells is a great writer, and I really can't wait to get into his stuff. We have A Matter of Days by Amber Kaiser. This is a science fiction survival type story. It's about like a post-apocalyptic pandemic world of a young brother and sister who must help each other survive, travel cross-country clinging to a faraway destination, promising hope. And again, they meet all kinds of characters and creatures and things through this pandemic world as they try to reach this destination, like on the other side of the country or something. I love stories like this. I love post-apocalyptic type worlds, and just how many different spins authors can take with what happened and what's going on and how people survive. And A Matter of Days just seems like the perfect standalone for that. Next up, we have In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. This is a dark psychological thriller. This book has been compared to The Girl on the Train and Gone Girl. So if you liked either of those books, you'll probably like this one as well. This is about a girl named Lenora, who pretty much is a hermit writer. She just stays at home and writes and doesn't like to leave her house unless it's absolutely necessary. She ends up getting invited to this party thing from a couple of friends, like in like a getaway type weekend, and so she decides to go. I'm not really sure why she decides to go, if she's a recluse writer, but I'm sure you'll find that out in the story. But this one sounded really intriguing. At the end of the weekend, she finds that she may not be able to trust her own memories. Things during that weekend happened. Someone got hurt. She wakes up at an unknown location, and she just doesn't know what's going on. The truth, and as she's doing this, she discovers things about herself she probably wished she had. And this book is just a fast-paced, crazy, in-depth mind type book, and I do love books like this. I didn't read Gone Girl, and I haven't read The Girl on the Train, but I do love books like that, and I just want to get into all of them. But I have this one. Actually, technically I don't have this one. I bought this one for a friend for her birthday, so you will not see this book again in my collection unless I rebuy it. Next, we have The Creeping by Alexandra Sirowy. This is a dark mystery book, and it's about a girl named Stella and her friend. They both went missing at a young age, and the book is set 11 years later. And Stella wants answers. In the search for these answers, she finds things that live in the dark that you were never supposed to uncover. I do love scary things. I love scaring myself. I love watching scary movies, reading scary books, playing scary video games. I just love that factor at all points. Lastly, for the book haul, we have What She Left Behind by Tracy Byland. This is about a girl named Sarah and her mom who live with an abusive father. Both on the verge of leaving him forever, then Sarah's mother disappears. Sarah needs to find out the truth before time runs out for both her and her mom. And again, this is just one of those psychological race against time thriller type books, and I love books like this, so I can't wait to get into all the ones I picked up this month. I do have quite an extensive TBR, so I don't know when or if I'll be getting to these books anytime soon. So that is it for the September book haul. I do have one last thing to introduce. This is just a box that is decorated to look like old books and things. You can see the top here. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby quite a few years ago, and it does open and it's a box. I will not tell you what is inside this box. You want to know what is in this box, and this will be appearing on my channel again, and then after that second time it'll appear more often, and I can't wait to show you what is in this box because you do want to know and it'll be great fun. So thank you for watching my September book haul. I do have links in the description below to my Twitter, my Facebook, and my Goodreads. I just want to say this has been a great experience doing this. This is my debut to BookTube and to YouTube if you have not figured that out already. And I just hope the BookTube community can welcome me with open arms. Feel free to ask any book or channel related questions down below, and I will try to answer as many of them as possible, or I do have the liberty to just ignore some questions if they are off point or completely inappropriate. So again, thank you for watching.